Welcome back. I hope you're getting into the swing of virtual school, and I hope you're enjoying the story Resist. We're going to keep reading to figure out what happens to um, Samira. She's currently frantically trying to get to her mother. As I continue to read today, I want you to think about if she's making wise choices or foolish choices. And then in your Canvas page, you'll let me know what choices she is making and if she is making wise choices or foolish. And this next chapter is called Obeying Orders. Samira found Clark being treated by a medic. Her heart skipped a beat, worried he might be mortally injured. But he had only taken a bullet to his arm. He would live to fight another day. Thanks for the directions, Clark told her, but you really should not be here. The Germans might have rigged the bridge to explode. Samira's eyes widened, but Clark was quick to calm her down. Don't worry. If they were going to do it, they would have done it. Our engineers are searching for explosives now. If they find anything, they'll disable them. Samira breathed a sigh of relief. These soldiers were very good at their jobs. If all the Allies fought like this, the invasion would be over in no time. Beirut isn't far from here, Samira told him. Just another hour or so up the road. We can be there before dawn if we hurry. I'm afraid we're not going anywhere, miss. Not any time soon, Clark said. Our mission was to take this bridge and hold it until the soldiers came up from the beach, or until the Germans come try and take it back from us. We cannot go to Beirut today. Not today. What? No, Samira said. But once Clark said it, she realized that the soldiers were settling in. They were taking up defensive positions in the very same bunker and trenches that they had just cleared. But you have to push on, Samira told Clark. My mother is being held prisoner there by the Nazis. Clark looked genuinely apologetic. I'm sorry, miss, we have a job to do. Your mother will be okay, though. I'm sure of it. Samira's disappointment burst into a flame of anger inside her. How could he know her mother was going to be all right? Clark hadn't lived here in Normandy for the past 4 years. None of them had. They hadn't seen the way that the Nazis treated the French people here. What they did to their prisoners. He did not understand. Please, Samira begged. If you could just talk to the major. Clark grimaced. Oh, I couldn't do that, miss. I'm sorry. It's not my place to question orders. But there's soldiers landing all over Normandy right this very minute. Maybe some of them are attacking Beirut. And in any case, the boys coming off the boats will be up off the beaches before long. Not soon enough, thought Samira. Not soon enough for my mother, and not soon enough for all the other prisoners. Then I'll go do it myself, Samira said with more anger than she meant to, and she turned to leave. Clark put one hand out to stop her. Wait. How long has it been since you ate something? Here. He put a cardboard box of biscuits out of his pack and gave it to her. I'm not hungry, Samira said. That was a lie. Samira was starving. She hadn't eaten for hours, and then it had only been potatoes. Again. But she didn't want food from Clark. She wanted his help freeing her mother. Accepting anything else seemed like giving up. Take it for your dog, then, Clark said. He looks hungry. Serrano had returned from his investigations and was standing on his hind legs, trying desperately to sniff at the food in the box. For Serrano, then, Samira said, and the gnawing ache in her stomach subsided a bit, knowing she would give in and eat some of the biscuits soon. There's water, too, Clark said. Drink some before you go. You should stay here with us, but if you're going to be roaming around Normandy all by yourself tonight, you should have this. Clark unhooked a leather scabbard from his belt and handed it over. Samira gripped the handle and pulled out a dagger with a blade as long as her hand. She gasped. Be careful, miss, Clark said. It is sharp. Hopefully you will never have to use that on anybody, but just in case. I am sorry we cannot come with you. If everybody did what they wanted and disobeyed their orders, the whole invasion would fall apart. Samira softened. She wished it were otherwise. These soldiers could rat out the Nazis in Beirut in no time. But she understood. Maybe she would find some other soldiers whose mission was to take Beirut. Maybe Allied soldiers were attacking the city right now. The only way to know was to get there as soon as she could. Exhausted. Samira had been walking for hours. It was almost dawn, that strange time when it's still dark but the birds wake up and the forest comes to life with the scuttling of little animals. It was sharp and cool, and dew glistened on the grass. Any minute now the sun would peek up over the horizon, turning the blue-gray sky orange, and Samira would be too late. She was weary, but hope, fear, worry kept her moving. The biscuits Clark had given her were long since eaten, shared with Serrano, of course. Now Samira carried her companion. His little legs were too tired to walk another meter. His head rested on Samira's arm like she was his own personal pillow, and she could feel the rise and fall of his tiny chest as he dozed. Samira had left the fields and was walking along the road now. It was dangerous, but it was the best way to know she was headed in the right direction. Besides, the Germans had flooded most of the pastures close to the city, hoping to catch Allied paratroopers. She had seen more of those coming down in the night, but not so many now, and no more gliders. Was that all the Allies were sending? And where were all the ones she had seen coming down through the night? What mission did they have? Were any of them attacking Beirut? Or was that job of the soldiers coming off the beaches, like Clark had said? What will I do if the soldiers are too late? Samira wondered. She had Clark's dagger now, but what good was a girl with a dagger against an entire German garrison? And what if she didn't even have a chance to fight? What if her mother and the other prisoners were shot before she even got there? Samira stumbled and dropped to her knees on the pavement, doing her best not to fall over Serrano. Her scraped knee screamed in pain, and she cried softly. She was exhausted. She could not remember the last time she stayed up all night long. Had she ever stayed up all night long? She was so tired it was hard to think. She wanted to lie down. She wanted to close her eyes, just rest for a few minutes. But she knew that if she did, she would not get up again, not in time to save her mother. A bright light appeared in the road ahead of her, and Samira squinted. The purr of an engine reached her, and she clambered to her feet. Someone is coming. Samira staggered off the road just as a motorcycle buzzed by, going so fast in the gray pre-dawn that she couldn't even see if it was a German or otherwise. She was just wondering if the motorcycle had spotted her when another light broke down the road, and another, and then suddenly there was a thunder of engines and a herd of motorcycles roared past her. Serrano was wide awake now, and he barked furiously at the rumbling things as they passed. His protests drowned out in the noise. Samira held on to him as he wiggled. Who were they? And where were they going in such a hurry? Samira watched, dazed as the motorcycles were followed by truck after truck of soldiers. Some of the trucks had no covers on the backs, and she could see the soldiers sitting side by side on long benches, facing one another, rifles between their legs. Other trucks were covered with canvas tops, and she could see the soldiers inside when they passed. They were German soldiers. Samira blinked in wonder at the never-ending procession of German soldiers. Troop transports, motorcycles, field cars, half trucks, that strange combination of truck and tank with the rubber wheels in the front and treads in the back, and then actual tanks, at least a dozen of them, clanking by in slow motion, belching exhaust. Samira did not know how long she stood there gaping before she realized she should hide. She needed to take summer cover somewhere. Her mind flashed to the scabbard she had tied to her belt, the knife that Clark had given her. She could defend herself if she had to, but no one really seemed to care about her. They all saw her, the truck drivers and the infantrymen, the tank crews and officers. They all saw her out after curfew, and not one of them stopped, and not one of them said anything. It was like Samira didn't matter anymore. They had something bigger to worry about now. and no one had time for a girl and her dog. Samira remembered just hours ago when she and the boy from the French resistance had been worried about being caught in the street. But that was before the Allies had dropped thousands of soldiers on Normandy, before the invasion had really begun. Now she might as well have been a rock for all any of them cared. One of the soldiers manning a mounted machine gun in the back of a half truck noticed her at last. He aimed his big machine gun at her and tracked her through its sights. Samaria sucked in her breath, suddenly regretting that she had not run and hidden when she had a chance. Now it was too late. If she moved, he would only gun her down for sport. Samira held her breath and looked right back at the soldier. She couldn't see his eyes, but she knew he could see her looking at him. Could tell from the way the barrel of his machine gun stayed on her that he was watching her as the track drove past. Pacow. Samira could see the soldier's mouth silently form the word as he pretended to shoot her. He did not pull the trigger, though. Not for real. As the half-track drove out of range, he stood and rested his arms on the top of the gun, smirking at her like a tiger who had let a mouse go. And then they were gone. The last of the trucks rumbled down the road and everything was still and quiet again. Samira trembled, but stayed on her feet. She put Serrano down and he ran out into the road to sniff at the new smells the trucks had left in their wake. Samira could not believe it. It felt like the entire German army had passed them by. That wasn't all of them, she knew, but it was more soldiers, more trucks, more tanks than Samira had ever seen in one place. Were they headed for Major Hughes and his team at the bridge, or were they going somewhere else? Wherever it was, she was sure it was because of the Allied invasion. Today's Allied invasion. With the start, Samaria realized that while she's been mesmerized by the German army driving by, the sun had come up. It was officially morning, and the Germans shot their prisoners at dawn. Samaria ran.